Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Salon hang. The Salon hang has been used over many centuries all around the world to put a lot of artworks into a space. In more contemporary terms, it's a fantastic way to build your collection. It's something that I've used for many years, and even today when I'm a little bit bored at home, I'll move works around, and there's not really much you need to have to create your own salon at home. So I'm going to get Anthony in shortly to talk about how you actually physically put these things together. But to understand a few of the basic aesthetics around it, it's all about making space activated that would ordinarily be a little bit difficult to hang works in. So hallways are a fantastic place to put a collection of works because you're up close to them and you can investigate them nice and intensely. It's also a terrific way if you don't have the budget for a major artwork, or if you just want to start collecting one or two fairly significant works and then intersperse them with all sorts of things, including photographs, even postcards that are framed, little sculptures, keepsakes, all sorts of things like that. It's really over to you about how and what you want to put on your wall. So without further ado, let's get Anthony in and let's talk about how he went about installing it. So for those of you who haven't met Anthony yet, he's our curator here and is responsible for how all the shows look and feel on the walls, which is a task that's easier said than done. But here we have, Anthony, this is something we put together for today, a number of our artists that we show, and there's a few different things that are going on here, and I wonder if you can tell me where you started.
So I started with this beautiful Aaron piece. It felt like a nice kind of grounding place for this collection that I was kind of going to disperse throughout this wall, and it has this really viscous paint and it pops out, so it was a really bright point to start at. And then I kind of jumped over to the Nicholas Blow, and I thought it's usually a piece that we'd see at a nice 150 hanging height.
So to explain that, the 150 hanging height?
So in the gallery, you'll notice that at Nanda Hobbs we hang all our works at 150 midpoint. So that means anyone of Ralph's height, anyone of Zainab's height who you know at the gallery is able to see the work at a really comfortable viewing height.
And that's pretty standard?
That's standard across the world for the most part. Sometimes people go to 160 or they hang it lower, but here at Nanda Hobbs we usually stick to the 150.
Right, okay. But this particular exercise, we've started with the Aaron Canane,
yes,
and we're building out from that.
Exactly. So I kind of wanted to push it, I knew, up from Aaron. I liked kind of sitting it at a little lower. It kind of felt like you could peer over the horizon line, which is a great factor of Aaron's work.
Yep.
Always looking into the distance. I then moved to the Nicholas Blowers, which I think is a fantastic little triptych, and it kind of has this nice grounding. So I was just playing with the kind of the imagery of what we were working with in this salon. You can push anything in this salon to different heights and different kind of widths. And something that's quite interesting to play with is the kind of drama of pulling something out of a salon and making it a real feature.
So a work that might actually sit off to the side.
Exactly. So we could pull this drink water etching over here and it still fits as this grand salon over here, but it's sort of accentuated as a bit more of a hero piece in the salon. And
we've got the Catherine Longhurst here, which is a disc. Yes. Obviously everything's square, so it doesn't all have to, for want of a better term, be matchy-match.
Totally. And you can also bring in sculptural elements. Little shelves are great to put small sculptures or little knickknacks which you collected, and it's, as Ralph said before, postcards, posters. It all builds this kind of grand story of what you've collected in life.
This is the thing that I really like about salons. When you're building a collection, you can start, as I mentioned earlier, you can just have one or two really nice, significant works, but they don't actually even need to be very expensive at all. That's not the point. And then interspersing it. And as your collection grows over the years, you can start taking some of the less significant pieces out and putting other works in. And it allows you to build build your education and your aesthetic. But let's get down to some tin tacks here. How do we go about doing that? For all the people that are at home, can't go out at the moment, looking at piles of photographs and etchings and maybe even some of these things, how do we go about doing this?
So this is a really easy process, and it's actually quite a lot of fun. You'll need about 5 elements, most importantly a drill, a spirit level, tape measure, pencil, and some screws. So basically you find the height of the first one like I did with the arrow, and I said, all right, I like the work starting about here. I measured the back, which has the string, and then I made a little knot on the wall and I put my first screw in. I then kind of paste my salons with a roughly 5 centimeter gap between all of them, as I kind of prefer a uniform salon, but that's my kind of OCD. You may kind of like a bit tighter. I know Ralph's has things butting up against each other, and then there's one just way over
sitting
there.
Out in the,
Exactly. Yeah. So you can be quite free with it. There's no set of rules with the salon. It is meant to be fun, and it's meant to be an experience in putting it up and also viewing it. So you kind of start with your base one and then move about.
And also don't be afraid to change where things go.
Yeah, totally. You can mix it up quite regularly as well. Say I love this Aaron, looks great in the salon, but I want to look up at the horizon line, not over anymore. So you can pull that out and you can put it nice and high, pull the drink water down, you can move things about. It's like a more interesting game of Tetris. Yeah,
that's exactly right. There are a couple of other little things in here. The frames can act as part of the compositional factor in this too, can't they? Colour, shape.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got something which is quite heavy and viscous in kind of impasto oil paint here, and then we've got it next to this really quite subdued Wenjanapanjari etching, which has similar tonality in the frames, and that kind of lets you move through a really heavy painting to a really soft kind of ethereal painting, or etching in this case. So they can kind of be transitional points, if you will.
Okay, and the other little trick too that is quite important, particularly if you're hanging your salon in a high use area, so near a door. With this Nicholas blowers, it's strung and it has a life of its own, really, doesn't it? So one of the little things is we use blue tack.
So what we would do, we kind of find the height of the painting, we put the painting up and we go, oh, it's a bit wobbly here. So we put a little bit of blue tack on the corners here, and that way it'll kind of sit there, hold its place, and it'll be level for years to come.
And I think the other thing that I mentioned, that at home, whenever I get a little bit bored and itchy about the way things look, I'll move things around. This is an evolving process, so it is important to have fun with it and to think about it in the context of almost turning your house into an art gallery, a museum, and it really can invite you to investigate your art collection to a far greater extent. So have some fun with it. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to email us and Anthony will come back to you or myself. Enjoy that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.